Hello, everybody, and welcome to Tier List, a WWE Tier List. It is SummerSlam Day. We are excited. It's 2022 SummerSlam, and to celebrate, we want to do a tier list of what someone on Tier Maker thought was the greatest WWE wrestlers of all time. So we are taking their list, so don't yell at us if somebody's not on here. If you're like a huge Bruno Sammartino fan or like Iron Sheik stan, it's not going to be here. Sorry about that. But we have this list. Steven, how are you doing? You're joining me for this.
I am. I'm doing well. Excited to rank some wrestlers and get yelled at for it. Oh, that's probably the best part.
It's going to get interesting because at the top here, we have Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
Where we're only going to have 4 here.
Yeah,
and
we are limiting it.
Yep. We're going to do it 1 through 4 too, so we're going to battle that out.
Oh yeah, which means that there will be probably people put in the Mount Rushmore, and then we'll argue it after.
Yep.
And
people move in and out of that.
Yeah.
So yep.
And then we have the GOATs, which are the greatest of all times, but just not quite the legends, the set in stone, pardon the pun, of the Mount Rushmore status.
Yeah, the Hall of Famers are the guys who just really stand out even amongst this group, but maybe haven't done quite enough yet to get that sort of legendary status that will, transcends generations and all of those types of things. So that's kind of where that's at. And
then the great careers are just the guys that, they're probably Hall of Famers in WWE standard because everybody's a Hall of Famer in WWE standard. But we're looking at this as if they were like, if it was any of the other major sports Hall of Fames, like who's getting in, who's not, who are the guys that are good but not quite Hall of Famers. Those guys, and then you have,
and it's all in relation. It's on relation to who else is on this list, too, right? Like,
for sure.
There are some people, and that brings us to our last category. There are some people who just, when you look at the context of everybody here, there's a few that just don't belong here. No disrespect to them. It's just you're in great company, and maybe one of these things is not like the others, and so that's kind of where we're at with that. So, with that said, let's go ahead and kick off with Goldberg. What better way to start?
Well, yeah, exactly. On this SummerSlam day with the rumors that he was potentially, if Lesnar didn't show up, going to be the replacement.
Yep. So this guy, I mean, he had a legendary run in WCW, and it wasn't like great in-ring performance, but just the character and the way they built him, and the undefeated streak, which jumped by like 18 wins week to week, was great, and it made for great television back then. And the moment where he beat Hogan in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta was phenomenal. I mean, 45,000 people in attendance for an episode of WCW Monday Nitro. He beat Hogan to win the championship. Continued to go. I think it was 100-0 at that one. It was a phenomenal run. Now, his later time in WWE, Steven, I feel like WWE sort of mismanaged him in his first go around. They wanted him to be like 25-minute match Goldberg. Goldberg's not that. So later now it's been more the quick hit type of thing and Goldberg's power moves and get out with a pin. I've got him in Hall of Famer. Steven, what do you think?
I'd agree with that. You could maybe argue GOAT status, but it's hard pressed. I wouldn't make that argument. He's one of my least favorite of the big legends. And the recent last 5-10 years has sealed that for me. I just don't enjoy,
especially the last 3 years. Yeah.
I mean, ever since he tried to kill Taker in the ring,
right? So I don't know. I feel like the character and the spectacle of Goldberg would be in the GOAT thing, but his in-ring performance just isn't good enough, in my opinion, to be there. So
yeah.
All right, up next.
Next up, you got Rey Mysterio, one of the greatest cruiserweights, luchadors, whatever have you. Just celebrated his 20th anniversary. Fantastic wrestler, always
with WWE.
With
much
WWE.
longer career.
Loved watching him. One of the best to do it. I think one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna put him. I could argue anywhere between Hall of Famer and GOAT, but I think he's in the GOAT category. If only because there's not a lot of other guys in that cruiserweight division that can match.
And with a few other guys, with Eddie Guerrero, with Jericho, with some others, he helped define that, that part of competition in wrestling in the late 90s. So yeah, I can go with that. And he's had a super long career. He can still go, not quite the same as he used to, but it's still pretty entertaining. We'll see tonight.
Yeah.
So, all right, brother. Let's talk the immortal Hulk Hogan. And to preface this, I'm going not off of the fact that he is rather deplorable as a person in some ways.
Yeah, this is removing the out of ring non WWE stuff. We're just talking about him while he was in wrestling.
Yep. I'm going with him in wrestling. Now, I will say, I've said on Pro Wrestling Weekly, and whenever anybody asks me, I don't think Hulk Hogan in the ring was all that wonderful, but as what he meant to the business, what he did, he's tentatively between GOAT and Mount Rushmore, so let's put him in Mount Rushmore for now.
All right. Up next, we got Shawn Michaels, my favorite wrestler of all time. Love Shawn. Loved the Sweet Chin music, just loved everything, the character, the in-ring performance. Loved that he could hit the Sweet Chin music from anywhere, and he hit it in some absolutely insane moments. He's one of the best to ever do it, and I will fight you tooth and nail that he belongs in Mount Rushmore when we get into kind of culling 4 from the 8 we think are up there, or it could be in the conversation.
I think the only thing that hurts him in that regard is that he was gone for a few years, and it was injury related and all that, but he did come back and redefine himself and do a lot of amazing things. He was in my favorite match of all time. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with that too much right now. Let's go to the head of the table, the big dog, Roman Reigns. It's his yard now, all that stuff. I think Roman Reigns is, as of right now, a surefire Hall of Famer, but I can't yet put him in the GOAT category.
I think that's completely fair. We'll see what the next few years kind of bring. If the rumors about him leaving and going into like more of a Hollywood type role, like I think he's kind of locked into this category. But if he can wrestle for another 5-10 years, or at least like 5, I think on a regular basis, I think he can move himself up.
Yeah, he's already becoming a guy that's just going to be at the big 4, the tentpole pay-per-views. Yeah. And that almost helps his mystique and aura in this way, because he becomes more of an attraction than just another guy. So we'll see. He's been delivering good matches, in my opinion. So we'll see tonight what happens. I'm expecting the match to be pretty good.
Yeah.
So
next up, we got the phenomenal one, AJ Styles. Love his in-ring performance. Great career even before the WWE in New Japan. However, recently he's been kind of just, adrift. They can't figure out what to do with him. But that doesn't take away from his in-ring ability and his on-mic ability. And just, he was the guy that was Taker's last match. I think that says a lot about him. I could maybe argue GOAT, Hall of Fame. It's tough. I think I'm going to put him in the Hall of Fame category, but you could push me and I wouldn't fight too hard on it.
I think that's fair. And before you say, it was a cinematic match, that was originally planned to be like a 45-minute in-ring match.
And that's not his fault. It's just
changed all that. So
messed everything up. So you can't blame him for that. So.
Yep. No, and you can't blame him for poor writing either. Just because his character's been adrift. I mean, he's still an amazing talent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Umaga, somebody I personally loved watching back in that time, about almost 20 years ago. I'm going great career for Umaga. I think he's phenomenal. He has one of my favorite, just dumb finishing moves ever, but it's great. And he was in the hair versus hair match, the legendary at WrestleMania. So between two of the most likable people of all time. So, great career for me. I think he was just wonderful on television and in pay-per-views for a good few year run, but it's not quite like when I look at the other people here, the other talents here, I don't see it quite the same.
Yeah. Up next, you have Seth Rollins, and I think people might argue with my placement, but after his run in the Shield, he has found his character and can just basically do anything. He's been in phenomenal rivalries, phenomenal matches. He puts on great matches all the time. A phenomenal in-ring performer. But I just think to like the one-off match with Reigns, like coming down in the Shield attire, completely messing with his head, doing the whole like cult leader stuff that he had right before with the Mysterios. He is one of, if not the best wrestler right now, all around. And you could push back on that, but I'm going to fight you on that one. Rollins is fantastic. I love watching him. I'm going to put him in the GOAT category. I actually think he's better than Reigns in a lot of ways, and I know that might get some flack, but there he goes.
Okay, I'm gonna debate that a bit, but I can be persuaded. I just don't think he's done enough quite yet to be there. I think he needs one more great run with the title, and have some just legendary title defense matches, especially one at like a WrestleMania.
I agree with that. That's fair. I just worry that WWE isn't going to let him have that, but I think he belongs in the GOAT status because he is just so good.
Mm-hmm. So we have The Miz, who I think The Miz is great for what The Miz is. Okay, I think he's great. I do think he's going to the Hall of Fame, and I think it's going to be an easy one. But in comparison to the rest of this list, I'm going to put him in great careers. I think that's kind of just where he is. He did headline WrestleMania 27, defeated John Cena there. He's had a great career, and he at times absolutely carries whichever weekly show he is on. So, but for now, I put him there. If he has another decent run with the belt or gets in another just iconic feud, then we can go with that.
Yeah, I'm not sure he's going to get another opportunity with the belt, but we'll see.
I don't think so either.
Next we got the Animal Batista. I think this one's pretty easy. Fun career. You could maybe argue Hall of Famer, but I'm not going to. I think great career is kind of where he's at. As someone who hates the spear as a finishing move, I think it's overdone. I always thought Batista's was really good, and like it would actually hurt. And then I love the Batista bomb, so yeah. But they're a great career for sure.
Okay, can live with that. Brian Danielson, however you want to go about that. So this is a guy who, has been in the WrestleMania 30 build up and story, like the Yes Movement and all of that. One of the greatest stories of the last 15 years in WWE that's been told. I think in ring, you're not going to find many better right now.
Nope.
If any, than him. And so I put him in GOAT. Just the guy's commitment to continue doing what he's doing despite the risk to himself with all the concussion issues and everything. I worry for him, but I tip my hat to him at the same time. Like, he's passionate about what he does, and he does it because he loves it. So, yeah, I put him in GOAT.
Yeah.
Anytime there's a big Daniel Bryan match, Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's no argument. I think if it wasn't for the injuries, he could potentially be in the Mount Rushmore based off of, like, just because no one else in the 2010s. He's the best there is, I think, but the injury I think cost him. But yeah, go makes sense. Jeff Hardy, again, another one where the outside stuff is not coming into play here. I know he's had a lot of problems, and those problems did make their way into in-ring stuff when he came, drunk into a pay-per-view match outside of WWE. But yeah, TNA, I still think though he's definitely at least a Hall of Famer, but I think he's a GOAT. He put on some just absolute wonderful matches in the aughts, high flying, like that tag team stuff with the Hardy Boys and Edge and Christian and Dudley Boys. Like, that was so great. And then Jeff had a good singles run after that too. It's sad because you see him keep putting his body on the line, and I think that's part of the reason why some of the outside stuff is happening. But hopefully he finds the help he needs. But inside the ring and just straight on the WWE side or the wrestling side of things, he's a GOAT.
It's hard for me to detach sometimes the Jeff Hardy of right now, what he can do in the ring from before. But when you think back to like the TLC trilogy and all those things, I can go with that. The Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah. Let's talk about him. I think he is between the Mount Rushmore and the GOAT, but I'm going to put him solidly in the GOAT category. I just, I feel like later career, his WCW days, not as good in my opinion, but he was part of some legendary matches in WWE. I'm going to go solidly in the GOAT category.
There you go. Randall Keith, Randy Orton. Mm-hmm. Tough one. I could argue Mount Rushmore. Just the sheer longevity of it. He's been almost over 20 years wrestling and at the high level. Obviously a wonderful heel, maybe one of the best heels of all time. Just the legend killer gimmick was great. But even the face stuff with Riddle right now was pretty fun. I mean, it's been a minute since he's been in the ring because of the injury, but like it actually makes sense, like character wise, why he's not very good at it. But I don't know. It's tough to place him. I'm gonna say the like top level GOAT, but if you wanted to argue Mount Rushmore, I could easily make that argument.
No, that's where I am too. In fact, until about 5 years ago, I probably would have been between GOAT and Hall of Famer for him. But his last 3 years, especially the heel run that he had, and then the RK Bro, kind of solidify him in that GOAT category. That this has been really like top tier Randy Orton in the last few years. So CM Punk, one of my personal favorites. I think if he hadn't been gone for 7 years, he would definitely be higher here. But, some of his work in AEW has been phenomenal, and some of it has been a little spotty. Nobody can cut a promo like this guy, or very few anyway. This guy just knows how to connect with an audience, and his in-ring is phenomenal. His match against John Cena at Money in the Bank in 2011 was one of my favorites ever. He is right now for me a solid Hall of Famer, but let's see how this AEW run goes, and it could move him up into the GOAT status.
I would agree. Next up, we got Cena, Super Cena, one of my favorites when I was a kid watching. Obviously, I don't want to say I soured on him as I got older, but I definitely see the flaws that I completely looked past when I was younger. But that being said, I still think he's one of the greatest of all time. I mean, he carried WWE for many years, was the guy. I think there's no argument that he's in the GOAT category.
I'm surprised you're not arguing for him.
I never have argued him in Rushmore. When I was a kid, I would have. But when you look at Cena compared to everybody else for their in-ring stuff, it's hard to say Cena's there. Like Michaels is just much better wrestler. As much as I love Cena, there you go.
Okay. Andre the Giant. This guy, tragically, his body broke down late in his career and ended up, passing away in, I believe, the early 90s. This guy, though, was part of one of the most iconic moments in the history of professional wrestling at WrestleMania 3. And for now, I'm going to put him in Rushmore. I don't know if he'll stay there. But for now, that's where I've got him.
It's so tough to compare some of the older guys to the newer generation because of just training and everything that goes into it. So we'll have that argument. And I think just based off of a little bit of recency bias, it's going to be easier to kick him out than someone like Michaels, but we'll see. The Great Khali, also Mount Rushmore, I think just one of, I'm just kidding. Okay. Obviously, because of the whole wrestling trying to get into India, he was pushed. He just couldn't move at all. It was not good. Like, no, I don't even say he had a great career. Like, why are you here? You're not in this conversation, Khali. Like, no disrespect, but you couldn't move in the ring.
I think he did have He had I mean, he is in WWE.
Yeah, but so is everybody. Again,
that doesn't necessarily mean much.
Alluded to earlier.
So, like, when we say why are you even here, it's in comparison to everyone else here. I mean, he had his purpose, and I think he did a decent job, especially on television. Especially for guys like Rey Mysterio, who, or Cena at the time, who he could be like that menacing giant that it's like, how is he going to find a way?
I still remember Khali like squeezing the basketball and me thinking that he was going to do that to Rey when I was younger, and like kind of being scared that Rey was going to die to the Great Khali's massive hands. Right. But yeah, I still think compared to everyone else, like, one of these things is not like the other.
Chris Jericho, I have been a super fan of Chris Jericho since WCW, and he has reinvented himself so many times throughout his career and done it in ways that are always fun and engaging, and whether he's a face or a heel. I think back, like, one of my favorite Jericho moments when he was feuding with Dean Malenko, the man of 1,000 holds in WCW, and he came out and said, well, I'm the man of 1,001 holds, and came out with like the printout, like the old dot matrix printout, like where it flips over, and started reading them all off. And he was reading them when they went to commercial, and then when they came back, he's still reading it. It's the best.
The list was just so good.
Yes, the list, his security guy in WCW, like all of it. He has been innovative in the industry forever. I don't know. I can tell you now he's not going to finish in Mount Rushmore, so I'm going to put him in GOAT at the upper end. This guy's been able to go in ring with anyone in any kind of match and be successful.
Up next, you got Brock, who, he beat the streak. He was the guy. He's done a lot of great things, but not great on mic. I mean, Paul Heyman carried him for a lot of years. He has been pretty good recently as the old, like, just, I'm here to kick ass and chew bubble gum and leave and whatnot. And
he likes to talk about hogs a lot.
But I think he's definitely locked into the Hall of Fame category. You could argue the GOAT.
Yes.
I wouldn't. I don't think he's better than Punk or Rollins or maybe even Reigns.
No.
It's so tough. Even if I was ordering the Hall of Fame, like where to place him. I think he's above Goldberg. I don't know if I'd put him above Styles. I'm going to put him there.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I can live with that. All right. The Undertaker. So, fair warning, this is my favorite wrestler of all time. So, I might be biased. This guy has had a career of 30 years that was unparalleled in so many ways, including just character and how he protected that character. And then in-ring, especially in the aughts, delivered some legendary matches with the later years of the streak. The Shawn Michaels matches, the Triple H matches, the Edge match at 24, the Batista match, all fantastic matches. His WrestleMania matches were almost more anticipated than the actual title belt matches in the later years. He has been the standard. He is seen as the most respected guy in the locker room. He was the head of the wrestler's court, so to speak, forever. To me, he's
there's no argument there. Changed his character as needed. Just a phenomenal entrance. Great wrestler. Even the last.
Oh yeah, I didn't even say that.
What?
It's the greatest entrance of all time.
And like, even with some of the less good matches at the end of the career, you can't take anything away from him. And he had the streak. And no one's going to even get close to that.
The only thing he's guilty of is hanging on a little too long, probably, and
it's hard to let go.
It's hard to blame for that.
Next, you got the Big Red Machine, Taker's brother. Another one that was like, for a big guy, just could move and was great to watch in ring. I think he's locked into the GOAT category. You could argue Hall of Fame, but I think he's better than that. I think he's one of the best.
See, that's where I run into trouble though, because I think CM Punk's better than him.
Kane did it for longer. It's so tough. Because I'm with you. I actually think Rollins is probably better than him too. It's difficult. But I'm gonna put him in the GOAT.
Late Kane. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
live with that.
It was everything that, and for how long he did it, and just being the scary version, whether it was masked Kane or unmasked Kane.
Unmasked See No Evil Kane is probably my favorite run. Because he just turns into like the crazy psycho. That is fun. So, okay. Eddie Guerrero, a guy who I actually think if he hadn't passed away prematurely, we could probably have a discussion about him potentially in Mount Rushmore. This guy is legendary. This guy delivered. He helped revolutionize the cruiserweight division. He delivered in WrestleMania main events. He elevated lots of different kinds of talent and put on, 5-star matches with different kinds of people. Yeah, to me, he's a GOAT. No argument here. I mean, you hate him, but you love him at the same time. He's still like AEW. They had a pay-per-view in Minneapolis, and they were all just last year or this year. I don't remember. Last November, I think, and they were all doing tributes to Eddie Guerrero, like 16 years after he died. That's the impact he's had.
All right, next up, Steve Austin, Stone Cold. This is easy. It's Mount Rushmore with one line. Huh?
Now, though.
Well, we'll take out. We'll wait till the end, and we'll do it all at once and have our argument. But yeah, with one line, Austin 3:16 says, "I just kicked your ass," kicked off and saved the WWE as a whole. Just a phenomenal run. Cultural icon, I would say, even because I think that the whole generation of don't care about authority sort of thing. Austin was kind of the poster boy of that. And great in ring too. Like last year's WrestleMania. If you're watching this video, you saw it almost assuredly. There's probably no reason you're skipping that. But Austin still put on a great match with KO. And had some really fun moments. And the stun of Vince, memorable, even if it was bad. The
final stunner he'll take.
But I think there's no question. Yeah, I think
just
there's
as
no
memorable
question
as the first.
In Mount Rushmore.
I agree 100%. And I think of the time, you're 100% right. The mid to late 90s, he represents everything that, people at that time were about, like the pushback against authority and all of those things. So at that time, it was like Austin, it was NWO, it was Eric Cartman because South Park was brand new. It was all of those things. And so it was the brash, in your face, anti-authority figure. And he embodied that in every way. So yeah, I totally agree. All right. The Rock, the owner of the greatest finishing move in the history of professional wrestling, the People's Elbow. He's also in Rushmore for now. And I don't know if he'll stay, but he did not have as long of a career. But when you think the word icon, that's what he is. Not just in wrestling, but in pop culture and everything. And he's still got one more match.
Yeah, everyone knows who The Rock is.
Against
whether they watched wrestling ever or not. There's still jokes being made in pop culture in movies coming out in 2022 about The Rock. He's an icon. for sure, a cultural icon and a wrestling icon. And I could argue against it, but we'll wait. We'll wait for that. Next, you got Mick Foley, Dude Love Mankind, Cactus Jack, whatever you want to call him. Just an absolute goat. Like, probably the most underrated wrestler of all time, because we just think of his WWE stuff, and he put his body on the line. I mean, obviously, the most iconic moment in wrestling when he got thrown off Hell in a Cell. But even before that, when he was in Japan with just some great matches. You could argue him in Mount Rushmore, and I don't know if you could take that away from it. It'd be hard to argue against it too, but I think if we're just putting 4, it's tough.
He won't be in my top 4.
He was great. Loved Mick Foley, and it just underrated. It's tough to put into words how good he was. Yeah.
This next one for me is actually very difficult. Kurt Angle, and it's between GOAT and Hall of Famer for me. He, in ring ability, like, it's hard to question, like, what he can do. He is phenomenal. He is one of the best in-ring performers of the last 25 years, in my opinion. His own demons and issues, I think, hurt his career in a lot of ways. And his body broke down in a lot of ways as well, and that's unfortunate. So like his later years in WrestleMania or in WWE were fine, but the early years were fantastic. So I'm going to go very, like, I'm torn. I think he's better than Kane.
Oh yeah,
like in ring, no doubt about it. But then I'm looking and I'm like, Punk's probably a fair comparable here, so I'm going to go high end of Hall of Fame.
Yeah, and I'm not going to argue against that, but Angle put on some phenomenal matches as well, and I wouldn't disagree putting him in the GOAT category either, but we'll leave him there for now. Next is Sheamus, a guy I used to not like, and I still don't love. I mean, he's definitely a heel, and but I respect it now. I think he's kind of the poor man's Randy Orton, not to be like disrespectful to him. But he has done it for a long time, and he's just so easily hateable. I think he's definitely in the great career. I don't know. I don't think I'd argue Hall of Famer, though.
Even last, well, he's going to be in the WWE Hall of Fame. It's just for our purposes. Yeah. You know, the thing is, though, like, I think he actually deserves to be. I won't move him into that tier here, but just because of everybody else. Like, I mean, think about it. Even if you're in great careers, you're still in like the 25 greatest people of the last 35 years. That's still, rarefied air. But yeah, even last night on SmackDown, he put on a great match with Drew McIntyre. Yep, for the Clash in the Castle bit. So yeah, all about it. It actually had a lot of like feeling and emotion in it too. Kind of told a story of like their entire careers together. And
I've definitely been enjoying his run quite a bit as really like the leader of the Brawling Brutes with Butch and Ridge Holland.
Yep.
So
Sting, the Stinger, in one of the greatest like storyline builds, in my opinion, of the last 30 years or so, with the build with him in the rafters with the baseball bat pointing at Hogan and all of that in WCW, fighting back against the NWO, building to a pay-per-view match that was very underwhelming with a botched spot by Bret Hart at the end, and it just didn't give you the payoff. But still, Sting's career is one of the best ever here. I'm putting him in GOAT because he's not going to be on Mount Rushmore, I don't think. I think his WWE run is tarnished by that absolute crap show they put on at WrestleMania 31, where they basically had Sting's very first match in WWE. Vince had to go relive the Monday Night Wars and do all that and turn into just a complete shit show, but whatever.
Yeah. Next is The Big Show, or Paul White. He was good. He was good in ring. Great even. I don't know if I'd argue greatest of all time though. I think just assured Hall of Famer. be where I put him, kind of on the low end probably. Maybe probably even below Goldberg.
Yep.
As much as I don't love Goldberg.
Bret Hart. It's hard to think. Like when I think best technical wrestlers, I think Bret Hart and I think Kurt Angle, and just pretty much those two, right? Daniel Bryan maybe, but yeah, I'm going high end of GOAT here with Bret Hart. Bret Hart would be very mad at me for that. I thought you would put him in Rushmore. He's not going to end up there, so I'm going to go high end of GOAT.
Up next, we have Edge. Another guy, kind of injuries cost him from being in the Mount Rushmore category. I do think he's still in the GOAT category just for everything he's done. The Rated R Superstar, Rated R KO with Orton, obviously Edge and Christian, and then Edge as a singles competitor, first Money in the Bank cash in, and the smartest one too, like right after Cena came out of a grueling Elimination Chamber match where he was bleeding. For sure.
Well, set the precedent for what that was going to be, right?
It's tough because if I'm comparing Edge to Orton, it's so hard to place them. All three, Edge, Orton, and Cena, all belong like right. They're tied, and there might even be all three of them above Jericho. It's so tough, but
I'd go Cena a little higher, just because Cena was the face of the brand.
We're not putting these in any particular order, not really. But Edge definitely is a GOAT, like no question.
Yeah. Yep. Roddy Piper, I think is as well. And on the low end of it. He's between GOAT and Hall of Famer, but I'm going to go GOAT here because he's another name that just people knew. He was part of the Rock and Wrestling promotion in the 80s with WWE. He's a name people still knew up until his death in, I think, 2015. So, yeah, he's one of the names people thought of when people thought pro wrestling. So it's hard not to put him there.
Yeah, Santino
as well as the next guy.
Why is he in this? Is the question. Like
the Cobra is great. It's right behind the people's elbows.
Definitely was enjoyable to watch on television, like week to week. Not a pay-per-view guy. It just no. But had some fun moments, including Santina Morello in the women's Royal Rumble and getting knocked out, or him getting knocked out by, I think it was Nia Jax in the men's Royal Rumble. Either one, always enjoyable.
His feud with Sheamus was fantastic when he had the tea party and kept calling him Shamus.
He was.
Sheamus is trying not to
He's definitely fun, but no. Sorry, no.
Yeah, Ric Flair, just put him in Mount Rushmore. Yes. We'll have that conversation when we get there. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe he'll be able to convince us tomorrow that
he's after tomorrow. That's the worry right now. Triple H, I think, just probably a GOAT. Definitely a GOAT.
I think
great career.
This guy main evented WrestleMania almost every year.
And loved the stuff with DX, and then into a singles career. Kind of reinvented himself a little bit and became that like scary badass with the sledgehammer.
And came back from like really catastrophic injuries a couple of times, right? So to continue and got back to the same level. So RVD. I'm a little biased here because RVD was never like my favorite. I'm not going GOAT here. I don't think he was Mr. Monday Night. He was great for Monday Night Raw, but I'm trying to think of like iconic RVD pay-per-view moments, and it's hard to think of a lot of them. He had some really good Elimination Chamber moments. I remember that.
Yeah, I love RVD, but I'm with you. It's hard to remember the pay-per-view stuff.
All right, let's whittle Mount Rushmore down to 4.
Is Rick? I feel like the easiest way to do this is to figure out who the number one guy is, and it's probably Ric Flair, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, Ric Flair at number 1.
Yes. And Yeah, and I think for anybody younger watching this, like it's easy to think of Ric Flair in his run with WWE, even in the aughts and now, and be like, "What are you talking about?" But in the '80s, and before my time, before our time, but this guy was iconic, and this guy sold out like stadiums before anyone else did.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd put him number one.
Who do you have number two? I'm leaning Austin, but I know your Taker love might come into play here.
No, I'd just go Austin number two.
Saving wrestling or WWE, but even besides that, great wrestler.
So now I think after this it gets hard. So I kind of want to work backwards from here. So let's take Rock. No. Is Rock better than Undertaker? Okay. So let's go. Is he better than?
Also, probably not. No, I think he's
better than
the
Shawn
top
Michaels
GOAT guy. Maybe behind Hart. It's so tough. Like, The Rock is the hardest person in wrestling to rank because the career was short, but the career itself was iconic. But is he better? Did he mean more?
He's one of the top 3 on mic ever, in my opinion. Maybe top 5, I don't know. But I mean, with guys like CM Punk and Austin and Jericho's really good on mic as well. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he did it for long enough. But yeah, you think WWE and you think The Rock and Austin, and it's hard. But I'm with you. I'm going to leave him here. So, all right. Is The Undertaker more meaningful, better than Andre the Giant? And this is tough.
Yeah,
but
it is very difficult. And it's so hard not to let recency bias and how much we've seen of Taker versus how much you've seen of Andre the Giant come into play here. But I would say Taker's probably in this list and better.
So now is he better than Shawn Michaels?
No, but he did it for longer. Like, the injuries didn't keep him out for as long. I prefer Michaels as a wrestler.
I think I know. But I think The Undertaker meant more to the industry than Shawn Michaels.
But I guess it depends how we're going to view this. But I'm not going to fight you on this, but I do kind of disagree. But I mean, not with the meaning more, just as a better wrestler. But I think no, as wrestler, like pure in ring ability, I think they're probably close, but I would give the nod to Michaels there. I'm looking at the complete package here. And yeah, and I think The Undertaker. Yeah, how do you compare Hogan?
It's like, how do you measure Hulk Hogan?
Like, Taker's by far the better wrestler because
Taker's.
But Hogan, Hulkamania was a huge thing, and it was also a cultural icon. People remember Hulk Hogan. I think if you ask older people who, when you hear WWF, who you think of, the Hulkster is one of the the answers in. And I think part of the reason we sully on Hulk is because of everything that's happened in the last 10, 15 years.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you why I don't see Hulk Hogan very well. Like, his run in WCW was filled with just crap main event matches at pay-per-views. A lot of it's, if you saw those matches, you would think Roman Reigns' run right now is legendary. Because he couldn't move anymore, he couldn't do these things, but he still is there with his damn shovel every week, burying everyone and insisting to be on top. And so
I'm with you. It's not hard to talk the Hulkster out of Mount Rushmore for me. So I think we have our top 3 locked in. The question is, who's 4th?
Yeah. So now it's just,
this is the most difficult ranking. Mine is there, but Yeah, that's my personal. Like Michaels is fourth.
Okay. I will give that to you. I think
I almost wonder if that is like objectively the correct fourth person. And maybe even Hulk.
Here's the thing, like if Shawn Michaels had never missed 3-4 years, I think he's there. I think Hulk Hogan's career is more important than Shawn Michaels is to the industry. I think Michaels is a better wrestler by a million miles. But so now it's between Hogan and Andre.
It's so tough. I don't even know. You could argue either one. I'm going to say just because of Hulkamania, it's probably Hogan, but I could.
Fine.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I can't.
I'm not the right guy to make this. Fine. I'm going to say Hogan, but I'm not going to like it.
Okay.
But that's going to be our tier list.
I mean, look at the top. Look at the top line of GOAT. Like, that is really good. I mean, those guys are all amazing. So yeah, this is tough. So yeah, that's what we're gonna go with now. Could all change. Theory could be like up in Mount Rushmore by the end of tonight.
Especially with his daddy not being in charge anymore.
Well, especially because, I mean, it's a pay-per-view day, so Bray Wyatt's coming back, and it's,
I guess no
matter what, Bray Wyatt's coming back if there's a wrestling event happening.
Who do we think is missing from this list? The one that stood out to me for recent is KO. But again, it's hard to argue where.
Yeah, I don't think he's there.
Higher than great career, there. So I get it. It's so tough.
KO right now I put on the same level as like Sheamus and The Miz. That's where I put. So I think you'd have to go further back in time. You'd have to talk about guys like I said, like Bruno Sammartino, right? And those guys, Bob Backlund, people like that. I'm trying to think from like,
So who has
Val Venus? No, I'm kidding.
The best chance of moving up from their respective ranks. Obviously, guys that are still wrestling. I can't see Mysterio making it. I feel like the GOAT, you're locked in. I feel like that's the ceiling. I think Punk could go.
I think CM Punk. CM Punk and Roman
Seth
Reigns.
Rollins too.
And Seth Rollins. Those three.
Maybe Styles. It's dark horse. I feel like Lesnar. No.
I feel like Styles' biggest matches are
shame,
behind him.
Not shame on WWE, but kind of shame on WWE because I think if you would have booked him a little better, he'd be in the GOAT conversation. As much as we don't love the Styles clash.
So I guess a name that I think is missing if you're looking at an entire career, which we've done here, Shinsuke Nakamura is a guy that could be included here. Yeah, it's tough. There's some really good names, and I'm sure we're missing someone that we're just not thinking of at the moment, and we're going to get yelled at. But
it's this is obviously focused on guys that have been in WWE at some point. But you look at someone like Omega, MJF. So
Kenny Omega isn't going to be here.
On how his career goes, and just all, the guys.
If he wrestles anymore,
they'll fall, but. Yeah, so let us know in the comments what you think, whether you disagree and you think we're a bunch of idiots because we didn't put Triple H in the Mount Rushmore or something, or Bret Hart specifically could be there too.
This was fun. We thought it was going to take like 30 minutes to rank all the best of all time, and so I think when we do like the entire roster, we're going to be here for like 3 hours. It's going to be the best. So. But let us know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Let us know how dumb we are, and we will be excited to do more of these. So if you want to see other tier lists in WWE, let us know.
Yep.
We are happy to make that come true for you, depending on how much homework there is involved. So let us know, and let us know in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe.